Working with your mind and not your hands. What does that mean? Well, I'll give you a little bit of a brief history of where I came from. So I grew up as one of four siblings, and I was the second born. And when I grew up, I was very much of the hands-on type of person. So I was into cars. I was into inventing or thinking up anything I possibly could do to build myself. Was really big into classic cars. Had a 91 Trans Am. This was not a classic, I would say, but it was kind of my pride and joy. I had a 91 Trans Am that I rebuilt from the outside, basically, and did some tune-up work to it. And that was kind of the quintessential pride and joy of mine, was working on cars. I had 66 Buick Specials. I had 79 Volare, Plymouth Volare. I had all sorts of stuff that I really enjoyed. And I always thought that I was going to be a mechanic. What I leaned into were always things that I leaned into as, I guess you could say, were my passion. So I thought I was going to be a mechanic. At one point, I thought I was going to be a police officer. Leaned into that pretty heavily. Went into the youth, what they call a youth police academy or youth police explorers program. Did two of those different ones. And I bounced around a lot. I ended up landing a job as working for a print shop company, commercial print shop company. Well, the reason why I landed that commercial print shop company was because everything that I tended to do was working with my hands. So when I worked with my hands, I felt like I was being fulfilled. I felt like all the things that I kind of grew up doing, really like turning a wrench, seeing something physically change like that was the way to go. And being on that side of things, I tended to look down on people that worked with their mind. So people that worked with their mind, in my thought process, just give you a little bit of a thought process of mine back then, was like when I wanted to be a police officer, for instance. So I studied for 4 years. And when I thought I was going to be a police officer, the officer side of it excited me because you're on the beat, right? You're catching criminals, you're putting bad people away, and you feel like you're just really getting things done. But when I looked into how do you advance from there, what does that look like? The advancement would be to going to a sergeant, right? Well, as you start climbing that ladder, you start what I felt like was being a pencil pusher. You started losing some of your identity. And I looked at that, and one of the reasons, there was many reasons why I dropped out and ended up not going that route, but one of the many reasons was, in order to advance, I felt like I had to lose my identity. And so I had this drive to advance my career, even though it wasn't started yet. But I felt like if I advanced it, I would lose my identity. Okay? So ultimately, bounced around this thing and that, ended up in commercial printing for 10 years. I did that, and maybe other people could beg to differ, but I felt like I was pretty decent at it. I held a position which was basically the position where you put ink and keep the press operating and keeping paper in it, like large sheet-fed stuff, like multi-million-dollar equipment. It was really fun to work on, just to be honest. But you cap out at a certain level. And I struggled for years and years and years with that cap out, because I had the drive to want to do better, but I felt like over here you had the ones that made a lot of money were the ones that worked with their mind. And I didn't quite understand it back then, but I saw these people over here of like the pencil pushers, the sales reps. Those were the scumbags. Those were the sleazy ones that were making all of us, the ones that were doing the manual labor. They were making us do the work while they collected the money. And there was a lot of animosity to that, I remember. Well, that animosity, my cigar's almost out, that animosity turned into not allowing my mind to expand, and it didn't allow me to grow. So when I was always pushing to do different things, doing lawn care, doing commercial printing, I didn't have the thought process to expand from there and say, maybe I enjoy doing this. Maybe this is something I really like to do. But is it something that is going to pay the bills? Right? It's something that pays the bills, sure. But is it something that is going to put you in a position to where you can help others? Is it going to put your family in a position to where you can help your kids out with something someday? Is it going to put you in a position where you can help your grandkids out with something someday? There's a Bible verse, and don't quote me on this, but it says something to the effect of, the man that does not provide for his family is worse than a non-believer. Now that's a hard thing to think about, because there's a couple things to think about in that verse. Number one being, if you're lazy, clearly, if you're lazy and you're not doing your work, then you're not providing for your family, right? But then there's a second part to it. And the second part to it is, are you doing everything in your power, everything in your possibility that you have means to do to provide for your family? That being, if you see a position over here, that's the pencil pushers, the sales reps, the ones that you have animosity towards because they're making you do the work. That was me. And they're collecting the money. That's just my viewpoint. That was my viewpoint on it. And I say, no, I don't want to do that because I don't like them. And you're not providing for your family. You're not being able to keep up with the bills. You're not being able to provide the, I guess you could say, requirements or the promises that you've made. Are you providing? I can't, in my conscience, say that that's true. Now, clearly, there are careers out there, there are jobs that are morally wrong. There's jobs that, to this day, I wouldn't want to do. There's jobs that would violate my conscience, right? But is a sales rep one of them? That's something I had to think about. The day things changed for me was a day that I was driving into work, okay? And at the time, I was working for a company that sold hardwood floors, and I was managing a warehouse for them because felt like I was pretty good at what I did. I was good at loading wood into people's trucks. I was good at driving a forklift. I was good at doing those things that were working with my hands. So they put me as manager of the warehouse. But that doesn't always pay the bills. It's something you think you can do, but it doesn't always get you where you need to be. And I remember driving into work that morning, and I remember so vividly even just the turn I was on. And what I would do a lot of times is I would turn on YouTube, kick on a video, put it beside me and listen. So don't watch stuff while you're driving, but listen to it. And I saw this thing in my feed, and I always hated sales reps. I hated get-rich-quick schemes, but I was in a time of desperation. And to classic YouTube fashion, they will take and suggest videos to you. And that video said, getting rich is easy. And at the time, I was $32,000 in credit card debt. I had a shell of a home, a blank piece of land, driving an hour and a half to work from my family, losing 3 hours, not getting paid to drive to work. I was in a time of desperation. To be 100% honest, it was a very, very depressing time in my life. So I clicked on it. And it turned out to be a motivational speaker by the name of Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn went on to explain, it was a 5 or 10 minute video, you can still find it on YouTube. He went on to explain that getting rich was easy because of your circumstances. You live in America, if you're watching this video, essentially. Maybe not all you guys do. But if you live in a spot that has opportunities, and almost every country has some sort of opportunities. It's not just America. If you have opportunities in front of you, then getting rich is easy. That changed my thought process, and I thought, I wonder if that could be true. Because I wanted to provide better. I didn't want to be like that verse in the Bible. But I didn't know how to continue doing what I was doing and it to work out. So I started listening to a little bit more of Jim Rohn. And some of the things he said in there just, frankly, they made sense to me. It just seemed like it clicked. It clicked for some reason. I think it was a time of desperation. The Bible says that knock and the door will be open. Seek and you'll find. And that was the time that I was knocking. Mentally knocking. So I started listening more of his stuff. Okay? Well, one of the things he said was, one of the first things you need to do, taking action, is you need to get a commissioned-based job. You need to get out of the hourly wage. You need to get out of the position of someone saying, here is $15 and I want an hour of your time. You need to get into the position of saying, I want to work as hard as I can and I want to get paid for it. Not, I want to work as hard as I can and then I'll be a better worker at $15 an hour. So he laid out a couple different plans. Jim Rohn is since passed away, but he's just got phenomenal information. He laid out a number of different options that you could do. But one of the options was become a sales rep. It is a absolute bottom level entry. You don't need anything to enter into the career except for your drive. And I had a lot of drive. So I had to get over that hump of saying sales reps are sleazy. And I had to swallow my pride. And I thought about it for a week. Chewed it over, molded over. Thought of all of the sales reps I had ever encountered and hated and all of my experiences. And I went into my boss a week later, and I said, is there a position for becoming a sales rep? Is that open? And he looked at me, and he knew me fairly well. And he knew the way I thought about sales reps. He knew the way I was. Like, Noah's the guy who just builds his own house. Like, Noah's just the guy who goes and sits underneath his car all weekend to modify his car. And, like, that's not Noah to be a sales rep. And he said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I think I am. So he gave me a position as just a desk job, an inside sales rep position. Basically like the lowest type of sales rep position as you can imagine. And then from there, I pushed to what they call a hybrid position, inside outside, and then from there I pushed to what they call an outside sales rep position. Through all of that, I learned something. I got over the thought process that sales reps have to be sleazy. They don't have to be. There is a job that sales reps fulfill, okay? If you want to buy this table, you're in the market for a table, and you want a really rusty one that's metal, and I come to you and say, would you like to buy this table? You're going to buy it, right? Because you're in the market for it. I don't have to push you. I just present the table to you. You be clear in your communication. You follow through with what you say you're going to do. And you sold the table. You got what you wanted. I got what I wanted by selling the table and creating cash for myself. We were both happy, right? The way I used to see it was, I've got to sell this rusty table to someone who doesn't want a rusty table. That is not what a sales rep should do. That's what sleazy sales reps do. Selling products to people who don't want anything like that. But you don't have to do that. Sell the products to the people who want it. So what does that require? That requires some legwork. It requires you to find those people that are looking for a rusty table. That requires different strategies. Stop bulldogging. Start having conversations. Be real to people. Don't be that sleazy sales rep because you don't have to be. Through that process, by learning that, it was such an eye-opener. Because from there, I realized that the sky is the limit. If you can stop saying, these hands are the only things I'm good at doing, is turning a wrench. And you can start saying, yeah, I am good at turning a wrench. I enjoy turning a wrench. But I like using my mind too. And sometimes, most of the time, your mind will make you a heck of a lot more money than your hands. And I understand, and you should understand also, that we're not on this planet to make money. We shouldn't have the goal of everything surrounds around money. But we should have the goal of providing for those people that we are put in this world to provide for. Now, if that's your family, then you make the money to provide for your family. If that's you need to support your parents, you make the money to support your parents. If that's supporting this homeless shelter over here, you make the money to support that homeless shelter. God put us on this planet to do everything we possibly can within our power. Not limit ourselves and just say, you know, this is all I'm good at. And because there's sales reps out there that are sleazy, that means I have to be a sleazy sales rep too. I don't want to be a sales rep. No, you don't. Stop pigeonholing yourself. Figure out what it will take. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a sales rep. Start figuring out what it will take to get you to the goals you need to be at, and just do it. That's my rant. Hopefully you guys picked up on a few things from there. My cigar's out, so it's time to wrap it up. We'll be putting out videos about once a week, so hopefully you tune in next time. I'm just going to keep it real for you guys. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat something. This isn't going to be a channel that you watch that you'll see Lamborghinis in the background and selling you something that you don't want. That's not what this is going to be about. I want to tell you about what I've learned, and I want you to learn from it also. I want us to grow together. So, I look around and there's no possible way I would have gotten to where I'm at now by just trying to work with my hands. It's just not going to happen. My kids would not be able to enjoy this area. What you're seeing here is one of our houses. This is our neighbor's house that we purchased, what we like to call the cabin. It's not in very good shape, so it's actually going to be fixed up at some point. We're going to use that as a guest home. But all these things that my family is able to enjoy, I'm not collecting these for myself. This isn't just a collection of treasures. I'm going to disappear off this face of this planet at some point. It could be tomorrow. But while I'm here, I'm doing everything in my power to help the people around me. And my kids enjoying this property, this land, my friends, my family, and everything that we do comes from changing the way I see things. And you can too also do it. But you got to change the way you see things in life. You got to have a little bit of a more open mind. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. My name is Noah Gordon, and we'll see you next time.